The Money Moon, a Romance by Jeffery Farnol. Chapter 15, in which Adam explains.
Adam?
Yes, Miss Anthea.
How much money did Mr. Bellew give you to buy the furniture?
Miss Anthea was sitting in her great elbow chair, leaning forward with her chin in her hand, looking at him in the way which always seemed to Adam as though she could see into the verymost recesses of his mind. Therefore Adam twisted his hat in his hands, and stared at the ceiling, and the floor, and the table before Miss Anthea, and the wall behind Miss Anthea, anywhere but at Miss Anthea. "You ax me how much it were, Miss Anthea?"
"Yes, Adam."
"Well, it were a goodish sum."
"Was it £50?
£50! repeated Adam in a tone of lofty disdain. "No, Miss Anthea, it were not £50."
"Do you mean it was more?"
"Ah!" nodded Adam, "I mean as it were a sight more. If you was to take the £50 you mention, add 20 more, and then another 20 to that, and then come to 10 more to that, why, then, you'd be a bit nigher the figure."
£100!
exclaimed Anthea, aghast. "Ah, £100!" nodded Adam, rolling the words upon his tongue with great gusto. £100 were the sum, Miss Anthea.
"Oh, Adam!"
"Lord love you, Miss Anthea, that weren't nothing. That were only a flea bite, as you might say. He give more, nigh double as much as that for the sideboard."
"Nonsense, Adam!"
"It be gospel true, Miss Anthea. That there sideboard were the plum o' the sale, so to speak, and old Grimes had set his heart on it, d'ye see. Well, it were bid up to £86, and then old Grimes he goes 20 more, making it 106. Then, just as I thought it were all over, and just as that there old Grimes were beginning to swell hisself up with triumph, and get that red in the face as he were a sight to behold, Mr. Bellew, who'd been lightin' his pipe all this time, up and says, 50 up, he says in his quiet way, making it £156, Miss Anthea, which were too much for Grimes, Lord! I thought as that there man were going to burst, Miss Anthea." And Adam gave vent to his great laugh at the mere recollection. But Anthea was grave enough, and the troubled look in her eyes quickly sobered him.
£156! she repeated in an awed voice. "But it is awful."
"Steepish," admitted Adam, "pretty steepish for an old sideboard, I'll allow, Miss Anthea, but you see it were a personal matter betwixt Grimes and Mr. Bellew. I began to think as they never would ha' left off biddin', and, by George, I don't believe as Mr. Bellew ever would have left off biddin'. You see, there's something about that Mr. Bellew, whether it be his voice, or his eye, or his chin, I don't know, but there be something about him as says, very distinct, that if so be he should 'appen to set his mind on a thing, why, 'e's a-going to get it, and he ain't a-going to give in till he do get it. You see, Miss Anthea, he's so very quiet in his ways, and speaks so soft and gentle. P'r'aps that's it. Say, for instance, he were to ax you for something, and you said, 'No,' well, he wouldn't make no fuss about it, not him, he'd just take it, that's what he'd do. As for that there sideboard, he'd ha' sat there a-bidding and a-bidding all night, I do believe."
"But, Adam, why did he do it? Why did he buy all that furniture?"
"Well, to keep it from being took away, p'r'aps."
"Oh, Adam, what am I to do?"
"Do, Miss Anthea?"
"The mortgage must be paid off, dreadfully soon, you know that, and I can't give the money back."
"Why, give it back? No, of course not, Miss Anthea."
"But I can't keep it."
"Can't keep it, Miss Anthea, ma'am? And why not?"
because I'm very sure he doesn't want all those things. The idea is quite absurd, and yet, even if the hops do well, the money they bring will hardly be enough by itself, and so I was selling my furniture to make it up, and now, oh, what am I to do?" And she leaned her head wearily upon her hand. Now, seeing her distress, Adam, all sturdy loyalty that he was, must needs sigh in sympathy, and fell once more to twisting his hat until he had fairly wrung it out of all semblance to its kind, twisting and screwing it between his strong hands as though he would fain wring out of it some solution to the problem that so perplexed his mistress. Then, all at once, the frown vanished from his brow, his grip loosened upon his unfortunate hat, and his eye brightened with a sudden gleam. "Miss Anthea," said he, drawing a step nearer, and lowering his voice mysteriously, "supposin' as I was to tell you that he did want that furniture." "Ah, and wanted it bad? Now how can he, Adam? It isn't as though he lived in England," said Anthea, shaking her head. "His home is thousands of miles away. He is an American, and besides—"
"Ah, but then, even a American may get married, Miss Anthea, ma'am," said Adam.
"Married?" she repeated, glancing up very quickly. "Adam, what do you mean?"
"Why, you must know," began Adam, wringing at his head again, "ever since the day I found him asleep in your hay, Miss Anthea, ma'am, Mr. Belloo has been very kind and friendly like. Mr. Belloo and me have smoked a good many sociable pipes together, and when men smoke together, Miss Anthea, they likewise talk together."
"Yes, well?" said Anthea, rather breathlessly, and taking up a pencil that happened to be lying near to hand.
"And Mr. Belloo," continued Adam, heavily, "Mr. Belloo has done me the honor—"
Here Adam paused to give an extra twist to his hat.
"The honor, Miss Anthea—"
"Yes, Adam?"
"of confiding to me 'is 'opes," said Adam slowly, finding it much harder to frame his well-meaning falsehood than he had supposed. "His HOPES 'opes, Miss Anthea, of settling down very soon, and of marrying a fine young lady as he had his eye on a goodish time, 'aving knowed her from childhood's hour, Miss Anthea, and as lives up to Lunnon."
"Yes, Adam?"
"Consequently, he bought all your furniture to set up 'ousekeeping, don't you see?"
"Yes, I see, Adam." Her voice was low, soft, and gentle as ever, but the pencil was tracing meaningless scrawls in her shaking fingers.
"So you don't 'ave to be nowise back'ard about keeping the money, Miss Anthea."
"Oh, no, no, of course not, I understand. It was just a business transaction."
"Ah, that's it, a business transaction," nodded Adam. "So you'll put the money o' one side to help pay off the mortgage, Miss Anthea?"
"Yes."
"If the 'ops come up to what they promised to come up to, you'll be able to get rid of old Grimes for good and all, Miss Anthea."
"Yes, Adam."
"And you'll be quite easy in your mind now, Miss Anthea, about keeping the money?"
"Quite. Thank you, Adam, for telling me. You can go now."
"Why then, good night, Miss Anthea, ma'am. The mortgage is as good as paid, there ain't no such 'ops nowhere near so good as our'n be, and you're quite free o' care, and happy 'earted, Miss Anthea?"
"Quite. Oh, quite, Adam." But, when Adam's heavy tread had died away, when she was all alone, she behaved rather strangely for one so free of care, and happy-hearted. Something bright and glistening splashed upon the paper before her, the pencil slipped from her fingers, and with a sudden, choking cry, she swayed forward, and hid her face in her hands.
Chapter 15